I have a good question for you, or hope it's a good question.
Let's
Um,
hear it.
is there a source of confidence one can tap into if they don't perceive themselves to have accomplished anything worthwhile?
How would you ever look at your life that you haven't accomplished anything? Like, think of all the things that you've done throughout your life, right? I mean, even the people you've helped throughout your life. Like, you know how much you've accomplished, you just haven't acknowledged it. If you're living, you're accomplishing, you're surviving. Not only are you probably helping yourself, but think about all the other people you're helping along the way. You just don't realize it. So I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, I could get long-winded on it, but I definitely think a lot of people don't understand their talents, their skills, what they're doing throughout the day that not only benefits themselves, but a lot of people as well. It could be your work colleagues, your friends, your family, and everybody in between. So
Yeah, I mean, if you could delve into that a little bit more, I really, it makes sense. Um, what would be the, I guess, some tasks that someone could do to maybe like go through that on their own and figure out what can help them build their confidence?
let's kind of figure out, where do you want to build your confidence to, right? We could sit and contemplate all day, but where's your confidence? Like, where's it heading? Do you want to be more successful in business, right? You want to work for someone, work your way up in a company? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to get in better shape? Do you want to meet more women? Where do you really want to build confidence? Now, if it's across the board, then it really starts with self-awareness. If you're not self-aware of your behavior, then it's all bullshit, right? So we have to figure out from the beginning, how do we develop the skills we need to be confident with the things we want to go after? If not, it's like, I'm not confident enough to go jump out of an airplane, nor am I interested in it. Do I have to sit here and build confidence to go jump out of an airplane? No, it doesn't make sense. Do I want to become a fisherman? No, I don't. So, I mean, I could sit here and talk about it all day, things I do like that, but what do we really truly want? Like me, if I'm going to say anything, I need to be more confident in maybe learning more about editing, hypothetically, right? Because I only want to go so far with it. But if I'm lacking that, that means I'm not confident in it. So I got to learn how to build my confidence doing that. But again, that doesn't mean that I lack confidence in doing videos or doing podcasts or doing Zoom calls, right? I'm doing all those things. But if I look back and said, oh my God, I suck at editing, I can't do anything, I've lost it all. But if you look at the big picture, no, I didn't lose a lot. I'm missing just a little, but look at all the things I'm really doing. So
So
I'm
in
going to try
that,
to keep these like 1 or 2 minutes. I don't want to get long-winded on you there.
yeah, yeah.
So
So in that instance with the editing, you would do some research and maybe some actual editing to get yourself more confident. Is that what the idea is there?
yeah, and here's the deal. I know I'm going to suck at it. I made independent films and I never edited my films. I know it is to deal with a professional editor. All right. I'm nowhere near. A lot of editors they went to school, film school. Some of them just did it for numerous amounts of years. By the time I can't compare to them. So again, I have to understand there is going to be, it may not be up to my standard, but I definitely still want to have the confidence to be able to edit. I'm also not comparing myself to what everybody else is doing at this point in time. Excuse me. I need to learn to build skills, right? And have the confidence to understand I'm going to probably not do that great of a job for a substantial amount of time to my standards. That doesn't mean that somebody else's, they're not bad, right? But the reality is I have to learn how to pursue this and have the confidence to understand I'm going to probably have people say shit on YouTube about it. Hey, your lighting sucks. Or, hey, like for instance, this backdrop, we're getting ready because we're redoing this office. I just put up a couple black sheets behind my door because we're working on the office, but I'm confident enough to do this. But would I be confident enough to always put this up? No, I'd be aggravated. So I have to obviously become more confident to design what I want to design within, when I'm doing Zoom calls. So,
See, so I guess for me, it would confidence that I would like to build on would be entrepreneurship and women, I guess in the general sense, meeting more women, being
mhm.
in better relationships.
Yeah,
So is
well,
that
let's start
definitely
from the beginning. What's holding you back from that? What's always held you back?
I guess to some degree, fear of failure maybe is probably one of the things that would probably hold me back. I
Yeah.
would imagine when I think about
Where's the fear? Wait, what are you afraid of? Rejection? Is that, or are you afraid that the relationship is not going to work out? Or if you get in a relationship, you won't know how to kind of move forward. Or are you afraid if you're in a relationship, you don't want to get married? There's all these different things. What are you truly fearful of?
I'm afraid of everything.
I got you. Right, right. Here's the deal, though, with a lot of dudes. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't even think you've really figured out how you want to meet women. You're not even like on step one. So is it, hey, I go on Tinder and Bumble, and that doesn't seem to work out, right? Just using that for, okay, I've tried dating websites. I don't like that, or that's failed. I go out publicly and try to meet women. I fail, right? Is that kind of like, it could go on and on and on, right? To a certain degree. But like I tell Jason a lot of times, first of all, you don't even know what type of one you're really interested in kind of pursuing, right? Let's kind of start with that. We've discussed this, I think, even last time I met you. What type of woman are you truly interested in? Let's put yourself around those women, but let's also keep an open mind that maybe there's other types of women that you may need to meet or want to meet. You may have always been like, I only want to date this type of girl. She's only makes this amount of income. Maybe she only looks this way because I don't want any, somebody, a gold digger. I don't want somebody with extensions. You have all these rules in your head when meeting a woman. Instead of just saying, you know what, I'm just out to meet women in any way I can socially. It could be online. It could be through other people. Someone like you, if you were my friend, right, you kind of sound like you need an opener a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong, like somebody to hang out with that just starts to introduce you to different women. And you have these people probably in your life. You probably have family members, friends. You're not open enough to say, hey, you know what, I'm having a hard time meeting women. Hey, your cousin, can I go out with you one day? Can I go out and meet some of your girlfriend or your friends? Hey, a buddy of yours is maybe married or has in a relationship. Hey, can I go out with you and your girlfriend or wife to the mall? Let's just go out and hang out. Let's socialize, right? Let's take it. Let me be a third wheel once in a while. Let me learn how it is to date. Let me go out and learn how it is to like maybe even have a wingman or wingwoman. Like become a little creative and just accept that you're not succeeding at what you're going after. But we can come up with a plan for you to succeed. But that's got to be kind of you deciding what do you want.
Yeah, yeah. And from an entrepreneurial perspective, you can have a lot of good ideas and even possibly a good product. Like I sell soap.
Yeah.
I don't sell it on a massive enough scale that I'd like to. I don't know
Yeah.
that there's necessarily a fear there per se, but I don't. Maybe there is. I don't know. Maybe if I dig down, it might be something relative to fear. I don't know. But when I look to start, I'm not sure even where to start to get it going in a larger capacity.
Being an entrepreneur is brutal. I don't care what anyone tells you because you're constantly competing, you're constantly failing for the most part, unless maybe you have a substantial amount of money that you can kind of burn, right? I'm just saying. I've been very successful at certain things I've gone after independently, and I have failed way more than I've succeeded. Even when I had more money, I just usually pissed more money away. It wasn't like, okay, I have all this money I can spend on marketing, or I can build these products and I can develop all these things. It doesn't mean shit unless somebody else wants it, right? How do I build that demand for that as far as an entrepreneur goes? If you can't sell yourself or your product, you're doomed, right? We kind of get it. Back to confidence again. I believe it's dealing with that rejection and also understanding it's going to be a long road, most likely, unless maybe you have family members, friends that you can kind of spin off of. But if I was in your position, what I think a lot, and this is one thing I've lacked throughout my life, I've never really gotten around people always that were successful at what I wanted to succeed at. So I want to make films. I'll just use for an example. I should have went and worked maybe underneath a director for a while. I was egotistical to say, no, I want to write, direct, and produce. I don't need that. But like me making films, say for 10 years, I could have probably worked under a director and even good or bad and learned the strengths and weaknesses. And I could have learned something maybe in 6 years that took me 10 years to learn. but you need to also be like not afraid to go to somebody who succeeds in business. Now, it's funny you bring up like say relationships, right? I think a lot of dudes, this is where they miss out, and this is where one of my strengths are. I always try to date it's the most intelligent woman that I can be around. Most guys I know, almost I call it dating down. They don't want to be around somebody who's very intelligent. They want to kind of be superior to them. They're afraid to date somebody better looking than them, more let's educated them, who makes more money than them. Someone like you like soap. Why don't we jump on LinkedIn? Right. I'm just saying, why don't we jump on some social media? I don't care if it's Google. Start finding women that are successful in the industry that you're in. Let's also see if they're single. If they're more successful than you, maybe you can team up with them. Don't be afraid of them like joining and telling you what to do. They're going to, if they're interested in you in a relationship, they may also be able to guide you. I'll just say this. My ex-wife, one of the most brilliant women I know, if you know anyone who knows her, they'll tell you the same thing. Even who I date now, Rhea, extremely intelligent, in charge of 250 people. And this is coming from a guy who, believe me, has ups and downs like everybody else. But I refuse to be around stupid people. I used to go around and go, I do not want to be the smartest guy in the room. And that goes for my girlfriend or my wife, whoever I'm with. I need that guidance. I want them to do things with me. I want them to oversee what I'm doing. I want them to be intelligent enough to say, no, you're not doing this correctly. You should be doing this. Why don't you experiment here? Even with me writing my book, Rhea, my girlfriend, helped me write a book called Wingman, which is me trying to help men find the women of their dreams. But I had a lot of things in there that would probably shock most women, but she was smart enough to understand and intelligent enough to understand that that was my past. But she also was corresponding with me so much. It was unbelievable. So I didn't mean to get long-winded with that, but I think you know what I'm saying here. If you're an entrepreneur, you got to meet the right people that are successful at what they're doing, and hopefully they'll help you. And maybe if you're single, maybe get around women that are successful as well in business. It just doesn't have to be in soap. All right. There's a lot of female entrepreneurs out there kicking ass. Why aren't you meeting them? Why aren't you networking with them? You're probably only thinking, I got to network with dudes. Or I'm only going to network with this type of person. He's too wealthy to network with. He's more mainstream. He has too many followers on YouTube. He'll never talk to me. All these different types of things. So
that's an interesting angle. I like that. I think with the soap, for me, it's not necessarily a confidence of the product issue itself. Like, because I have high confidence in the product. I get such great feedback. I think maybe there's just not knowing where to. Well, you answered it with that in that regard. So how about like fantasy football, right? So I run a website with fantasy football or football and, betting and fantasy rankings and things of that nature, where there may not necessarily be a lot of women in the industry. I'm sure there are. There definitely are. And I come across them all the time.
right.
Is that, would you take a similar angle with that?
I gambled throughout my life. My first film was called Sore Losers, which was about the underground world of Chicago throughout like a bookie's eyes, right? So I'm very familiar with gambling, let's say, but not with fantasy football, right? That kind of came in a little later when I was getting out, right? Are you telling me you're trying to, through fantasy football, are you trying to build a bigger audience? Is kind of what you're saying to me? Is that what or am I missing the question?
I build a bigger audience, but more is capitalize on being good at giving fantasy football advice and betting advice.
Yeah.
On the NFL specifically.
You know what? Nothing is better than succeeding. If you prove that you know what you're talking about, statistics wise, you could be huge, right? There you go. I'm not kidding. Everyone wants to listen to a winner. Right. And I've seen the documentary. I mean, we've seen tons of documentaries on guys that are professional gamblers. I don't care if it's poker. I don't care if it's fantasy football. I don't care what it could be, highlight horses, whatever the case may be. If you consistently win, people are going to follow you. You're going to have eyes. Right. But then again, if you look at I always said the biggest bullshitters in the world are sports commentators. If they're so good at what they do, they wouldn't even have to do that. Because even if it's hard to even pick 50%. Even if you bet and lose 10% off each game or whatever, if you win 5 out of 10 games, you're still a loser. You pick 6 out of 10, you're still a loser. I'm just saying you got to pick 7 out of 10 winners after paying juice. So they don't know what the fuck they're talking about most of the time. It's just nonsense talk. And even if you look at their stats at the end, not even with a line, just betting teams, they're weak. They're not any better than anybody else, but they were able to bullshit themselves into making people believe that they were great at what they do. I'll give you one quick thing. Here's a little hint. I don't know. You remember Jimmy the Greek in the old days? He's a famous guy who used to give people ideas on where to bet. He became a famous commentator. He's called, anyways. What he would do, he wasn't even that good. My uncles in Chicago who are bookies, okay, would take his bets. What he would do, he'd go on national television and say, bet Chicago Bears, hypothetically. Bet the Bears, the Bears, the Bears. He'd move the line in Chicago for himself, go the other way, even if he moved it 2 points, right? He would do this throughout the state. He would do it for whoever had it. It could be New York. He had bookies there. He had bookies on the West Coast. My point being is him being a legend, he wasn't even that good, but he found a way or a tactic to make it into his advantage. That kind of makes sense. Kind of maybe what Pete Rose did or somebody else. But in your case, come up with something clever, I think, too. Maybe not looking like everybody else, maybe not talking or sounding like everybody else. I don't care if you maybe, you go to games, you do it. My buddy started off actually in high school announcing high school football games. He didn't even get paid. Then I think he moved on to college. His dream was to go on to become, whatever he did. But he did it for free at first. A lot of guys to get that publicity, to get people to start listening to you. So he built an audience through high school football. I'm just saying, and all of a sudden you get 100, 200, 500 followers. He spun it from there. So that's just some other things that I could go on forever about gambling, but I'm just saying that's him kind of being creative. Be creative with what you want to become too.
To your point about Jimmy the Greek doing that, where he was moving the line, that is pretty interesting way to, if you're on TV already, to be able to do that. You actually see people do this with the stock market and cryptocurrencies, like you saw Elon Musk do it with, because it's not regulated, so he's allowed to pump Dogecoin, or you see stock market people, saying to buy or sell. What was it? It was hotels and airlines at the beginning of the pandemic, and there was, not that was a bad move per se, but there was it was like, what was it, Chicken Little, the sky is falling, and they were pushing these things, and they definitely had. You don't know what they have in their own portfolios that they're trying to make a maneuver and make themselves money. So it is an interesting thing to be able to manipulate society in order to get a personal gain. I'm not a fan of that, obviously. I think that's wrong on every level possible, but people definitely do it. You're right there. If there's something clever that I can do that's different than the rest of the market, I have to think about that and see what that is, but that's a good angle. Thanks.
Yeah, we can bounce off certain angles, me and you. If you want exposure, right, in sports, it's a saturated mark. I watch a lot of sports, obviously, as well. I watched football Saturday. I watched Oregon Ducks, and I record a lot of games. So I record all the football games. I don't know if you do, so I don't have to watch commercials, but I do watch all the football games. I kind of dipped out of basketball.
The condensed version. So I watch them all later, and I get the condensed version. I pay like $100 a year, so I can do that.
Yeah. But so do millions of others, right? And everybody, I have a buddy who's obsessed with talking about sports. I told him I should team you up with him, Joey Corelli. But he's not only great at sports, not only great at talking about it, he's obsessed with playing it. And he's unbelievable at bowling. I can't tell you how many 300 games he's bowled. But anything in golf, I think he's already shooting in the 70s. And this guy's only taken on golf so many. But he was a standout high school athlete, an Italian kid. And he was in my first 2 films as a young kid. But again, he's doing other things, say bowling, like he's one of the top bowlers in the country. And that's why I told him, you have a following here already. For you to do a podcast is almost a natural transition. You know what he says? I don't even like bowling. That's his thing. I like golf. I'm like, that's fine too. You're doing unbelievable for your age in golf. Yeah, but I live in Chicago. Again, he still hasn't started his own podcast. He is obsessed with sports, basketball. Everything, mainly, and a lot of things, but football and even basketball and baseball. He lives it. He would be a kind of a really type of person, I think, that has these things. Now, you don't maybe have those type of connections or doing those type of things, because he'll go win a big tournament nationally. He should be talking about his podcast. That's what we might have to do with you, right? You may need to do more than just sitting in your house talking shit about sports. Why aren't we? Maybe you could. Here's something a woman I knew that did in Hollywood or in LA, out of Canada. She couldn't get any exposure. She just took a camera and a mic and stood outside any event in LA. She used to even interview me. So she'd stand out any director, writer, producer, not even a nominated, not somebody who's even nominated. She'd do a video on him, do a video on him, do a video on him for years. Before you know it, she'd post them. Those people that were nobodies slowly but surely started to grow. Before you know it, now they're asking her, I love that you interviewed me when I was a nobody. Come on in. I'm going to get you in the Emmys, or I'm going to get you in the Oscars. I'm going to get you in the all these different things. And I would see her at all the shows. She went from being an outsider. Now she's inside. What's amazing is now think about all the people she's meeting. She's not like everybody else chasing every writer, director, producer from the outside trying to get. Now she's meeting them, interacting with all these people. You might want to do the same. Why aren't you interviewing, say, Stephen A, hypothetically? Stand outside. Who cares? Hey, Stephen A, I want to interview, or I want to interview whoever the hell. Even people that have, maybe got injured in football and basketball, baseball, they all have a voice. Why don't you go meet them before you know it, right? They have a following Twitter. They hit 1 million people up and say, hey, I love this kid. He came out. He interviews everybody when they're coming in and out of games or whatever the case may be. That's just something she did that I thought might be kind of clever for you. So
yeah, ex-players or injured players. That's an interesting angle. There's also ex-players that are not in the media that typically they end up getting a job in some kind of commentating or whatever. But there's so many players that don't. That would be
so many. They get injured. You might get an Allen Iverson, like out of the fluke. I'm just saying, one day you reach out and he's like, you think all these people a lot of times are a lot. You could get Brett Favre. You could get whoever the hell you want to get. Sure. I don't know. You may get Eli Manning. Who the hell knows? If you're a huge fan of his, you keep going on Twitter. Again, you go where he's at. You catch him on the fly coming outside and say, listen, can I just interview you? Or can I talk to you? Before you know it, you're friends with him. Before you know it, you meet his brother. And before you know it, you're on your way.
Well, just I don't know how much you know about the fantasy football market, but it's not as saturated as you think. There really are only 2 shows that are worthwhile. And one of them is horrible advice. The ESPN show is really well produced, but they suck. They're just not good. And then there's the fantasy footballers, and they are good, but that's the only one, and it's well produced. The sound quality is there. You listen to a lot of, and I've gone on quests looking for these people in the market, and they're just the sound quality is not there. The production value is not there. The content might be good, but it's lacking. So I don't think it is as saturated from a quality perspective as you think.
I don't know nothing about fantasy football, to be honest with you, but I do know a lot of people are exhausted from ESPN, Fox News. I think a lot of people know it's a lot of bullshit talk, right? It's geared towards marketing and everything else. So somebody independent like yourself, who's really, really willing to maybe take a different approach entirely, they would gravitate towards.
Yeah, and that is what the fantasy footballers did. It was just 3 friends who got together, played the game, loved the game, decided to do a podcast. One of them was a sound engineer. I think that was one of the main reasons why they were so successful, besides having great quality content itself. And they blew up. They blew up because it was well produced and they had pretty sound advice. And they just loved it. You could tell the chemistry between them. They loved what they were talking about because they, it's a competitive shit talking thing that you could do with your friends, which is what most people are doing in the industry. Like people on their own, they're playing with their friends in a league, and when you beat your friend, you like to shit talk again, and make sure that they know that they lost to you.
Of course. Yeah, for sure. Keep it fun and keep it entertaining. I mean, you got to realize it's information's one thing. Like you could give great information, but if you're dull at giving it, you're going to fall asleep. So again, all that means a lot. Like, right, you got to learn to entertain people, keep their attention. What you're saying, like it's all kind of, things are successful for a reason. But when it comes to something that you want to do, just keep it in mind that it's entertainment. A lot of it, if you want to do it the way it sounds like you want to do it. If not, you're just like everybody else who's just doing it, right? You want to kind of lead and be in the spotlight position to a certain degree, right?
Yeah. Just helping other people get that ability to shit talk with their friends.
Exactly. So
yeah,
for sure.
All right. What else? Anything else we can cover here?
What else you got?
Um, what skills would you recommend learning or developing further in order to be a better entrepreneur?
Connecting. You're not connecting with people. I don't know how far you're going to go. I mean, isn't it all about who you meet, you know what I mean? Who you connect with? That's usually who's going to take you to the next level. Usually, I mean, don't get me wrong. You may start a YouTube page and start on fire and kick it in the ass and not have to connect with anybody. I'm not saying that. But for the most part, it's going to take relationships, friendships, building up and getting advice from those people. Because let's face it, being an entrepreneur, it's really about getting information that works. There's so much shit out there, fake gurus and all these different types of things. And believe me, I am not a guy who pitches being a successful entrepreneur or somebody that's going to be pitching how to make money. I know where my strengths are weakness, my strengths and weaknesses are. But get around specific people that are doing, like we discussed earlier, that are doing what you want to do, that are willing to give you the time, but don't exhaust them. I think what happens with a lot of people is when they do finally connect with somebody who they have some, that has given them a little time, they attack them. They email them too much. They want to get on the phone with them immediately. They bog them down. You got to realize how busy a lot of people are, or they just don't want to be bothered. They became an entrepreneur because they didn't want to be bothered to a certain degree. They didn't want to work for somebody else. They definitely don't want to be bothered by you all the time. And I learned that in the film industry. Like anytime I connect with somebody, I don't care if it was a casting agent or another a producer, executive producer. I'm trying to, it was good because I could connect with them. But I realized, the more I offered, the more they wanted to be around me. Not where I overdid it, but the more I said, hey, you know what? If you're ever in town, let's meet up for drinks or cigars. Leave it at that. Hey, you know what? I'm not telling them, hey, here's my script, read it. Hey, who can you get attached? Hey, can you get me funding? Hey, who can you introduce me to? Plus I'm not even thinking how busy they are. And then when I started to make films, I was like, holy shit. Now I'm on the other end. Now I'm getting bombarded. Somebody posted something online like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. So I was making my second film. I already casted it. But somebody put, hey, film in Chicago, this and that. I get like thousands of emails from actors. I got bombarded. But that's kind of the power of kind of things. But I can only imagine if you're somebody very high profile, everybody kind of coming to you looking for work or looking to connect. But I do think with LinkedIn, I will say, you will have the opportunity a lot of times to connect with these people, especially if you get an email or you go through somebody else. So I may know somebody, you're like, hey, Rich, I noticed your note. I went through all your connections. I spent literally a week. There's 7,000 or whatever. There's 10 guys I want to focus in on. I want to build a relationship with them. They're doing what I want to do. They succeeded at it. Looks like it. I just want to connect with them at first. You connect with them. Hopefully you go back and forth. You don't bog them down. Maybe out of those 10 or 20 or whatever, you become friends with 2 or 3. Take it from there, right? You learn how to build these friendships. They're not all going to be a grand slam. Most people don't have to, the time to be bothered with you. And neither do you. How much time do you have to help somebody who you won this award? How many people out there want to maybe win that award? But how much time do you have to help them do that? Very little, right? So you got to kind of look at things in that way. But it's all I believe about connecting and learning and kind of moving forward from there.
That is the beauty of YouTube in some ways. When you are successful, you could use that platform to be able to help many more people in kind of one sitting. Maybe not one-on-one, but I like that angle of it. But basically, what you're saying is don't be a nudnik once you are able to connect.
Yeah. Most people exhaust other people.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, make them want to be interested in you to a certain degree, not interested, right? And that probably goes with women too. And I'd hate to say this about you. You're probably not that interesting to women. That's why you're having a problem with them. If you were interesting, I can assure you you'd have women around you. And it's not about a look. I don't care what type of shape you're in. I don't care what your beard, your baseball hat, or whatever your angle is. If you're interesting, I can assure you women are going to either want to be around you or listen to you or connect with you. That doesn't mean you got to offer money to them or you're in show business or any of these things. If you're interesting, I can assure you they're going to want to listen to you. And that's the same with other people. So
be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. If you're not interesting, who the hell wants to listen to you or be around you? I mean, let's call it for what it is.
Is
What
that what the angle of what they call peacocking? Is that what
No, that's kind of showboating. You're peacocking. It's kind of the opposite. Like, look at me. And then I meet you, and who gives a shit about you? You have nothing else to offer. I don't care how you're dressed. Same with a woman. She could be beautiful. You go to talk to her, and if she's as dumb as a rock, or she's a snob, or she's a bitch, or she has nothing else to offer, why would I? That's kind of showy. Where's the mind at? Where's that going? Where does, where does kind of, where's this going? Right? Like, you may be meeting women, and what's even your plan? Like, most dudes think, I'm gonna go hit on a girl at a bar, I'm gonna go on an app, I'm gonna meet up, I'm gonna try to sleep with them, or I'm gonna go on a few dates, see how this pans out. Like, there's no plan. Would you do that with your company? Would you be like, you know what, I created a soap company, I'm just gonna throw it online, let's throw it up a few posts and let's see how it pans out? You're probably more strategic. You're like, no, I want to, I want to research, I want to figure out what's going to make this succeed, make sure I connect with the right type of people, make sure that, I build a brand that's trusted. That's the same with you if you're meeting women. I mean, it's the same kind of concept. I want to meet somebody who I can trust, who I can value, who I could grow with, right? All these different types of things. But most men, especially with women, are kind of it's just talk about throwing shit on the wall and seeing if it sticks. I mean, that's basically, and it's probably not sticking for you, right? So, different plan. We got to come up with a plan for you, but the plan's got to work specifically for you. I can't create that for you. I don't live your life. So for me to say, oh, this is going to work for you, buddy, go here and do this and go that, I can mention things you could do, but you got to go live it. I'm not going to be in a relationship with you and whoever you go with. I'm not going to be on the date with you and whoever you go with.
you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink.